It's just one of these kind of cool little towns. Lots of old buildings, new development, but not too many towns have these sort of old original, just sort of center streets. And so that's what I'm just walking down right now, is this old center street. It's called Broadway. It's like a throwback to the way towns used to be way back in the day before major cities came with huge shopping malls and Walmarts. And that's what's here. All these fun shops. So check this out. Gotta love these old buildings. And we're at the corner of Broadway and Washington Street. Look at this old building over here across the street. That's totally vintage. Look at that. Somebody has an apartment up there, it looks like, or maybe an art studio. Hey folks, Chris here. So I have driven from Twin Falls all the way over to a little town in the middle of Oregon called Burns, Oregon. I had chosen a route that would take me over to Bend, Oregon, because Bend, Oregon is my sort of destination that I've really wanted to get to. So this is just sort of a stopover. On my way there, I actually stopped in Boise for about a day, day and a half. And I had found a place to park on Google Maps. And I've said this before, that Google Maps is just an incredible tool. So if you're planning on traveling and then sort of urban boondocking, using Google Maps to find a place is just an incredible tool. And I usually scope out a couple of locations. I don't just find one location. I try and find a couple of locations in case I get there and it turns out that a particular location isn't viable. So it turns out that the place that I had scoped out worked. And I had scoped out a side street next to one of the big box type of hotels that are common along freeways. And that's actually a tactic now that I've used successfully quite a few times, is to look for these big box hotels that have side streets that you can park on, so you're on a public street, but you kind of look like you're kind of a guest of the hotel, right? You're staying there. I was in Boise for just a day and a half. My gym was there, so I was able to go to the gym. I have a Planet Fitness membership, which is, $20 a month, and it's great. They've got locations all over the place, and so I can go there and work out and shower. And there was a Starbucks right next to it, so I was able to go work there. But what I had wanted to do, one of the reasons why I wanted to stop in Boise, was there was a historical site there that I wanted to stop and do some exploration of, that I'm going to do an entirely separate video of, dedicated just to that, because it was a fascinating piece of history. Boise it was called the Idaho State Penitentiary, which doesn't sound very appealing as a place to go explore, but it was an amazing visit. It was a penitentiary that was in operation for 100 years, from about the mid-1860s until it ceased operation in 1973. Okay, we're about to walk in, take a look at, I guess, where they housed them. This is sort of the area where they lived. And this is kind of a newer building that we're going to walk into. At least that's what it looks like to me. And it was absolutely fascinating to go in there. And so I'm going to do a whole separate video about that. But that was in Boise. That's one of the reasons why I had wanted to stop there. So I took my scooter off and I just rode into downtown, because you have to pass through downtown to get to this historical site. And it turns out that Boise's downtown is quite nice. And I was actually really happy to have gone into downtown Boise and just experienced that. something that I could probably spend a whole lot of time exploring. So I got back on the road and headed back along the route I had chosen on Google Maps. Burns is really the first stop. It's really the first stop in an area that's very rural and in the farming district, the drier part of Oregon. But the route that I chose didn't look, again, all that interesting on Google Maps. And I looked at bits and pieces of it along Street View to get a sense for what it looked like. And much of it was very farmlands, flat, not terribly interesting. Until you get to a region where you're traveling through sort of ancient volcanic lands, as best I can describe it. And the Pacific Northwest has quite a long history of really intense volcanism, and some of that was very apparent as I was driving through. Massive volcanic cliffs are surrounding you. Like Utah, there seemed to have been a lot of moisture there, and the West here has had a relatively lot of moisture and rain, precipitation over the past 6 months. And so it was quite green, and in fact, a couple of the valleys that I passed through, I noticed that there was standing water next to the freeway, which was an indication that there had been a lot of moisture there. So I've gotten into Burns, and Burns is just a nice small town. I've been here for a day and a half. I'll have stayed here for 2 nights. There's a little coffee shop I went and worked at this morning, which was nice. They kept refilling my coffee for me, and just typical of the kind of small town that you would drive through that has a little center main street, in this case called Broadway. Just all those old-time shops that used to be the center of American life. And it's fun. I like them. It feels like a slower pace of life right here. And yet it was still a relatively busy small town. Let's check this out. I love that. It's like kind of modern on the bottom. It's an iStore with that old original building up top right there. So cool. So it looks to me like there's renovation going on, some of these old buildings. Like this looks like it's in the process of being turned into a bar or something. Burns Trading Post. Check this out. I actually went in here today just to snoop around the Burns Trading Post, and it is full of all kinds of cool old stuff. Here's just a kind of a divey bookstore. I should go in there tomorrow. Harney County Community Center. Look at this. Harney County Brewfest. And then right across the street is a little tiny cinema that's playing the new Godzilla film. How awesome is that? So we're coming up to something that looks really quintessentially small town to me. The Elkhorn Cafe Cocktails. Cafe and Cocktails. I love that. Linda's Thai Room. Gifts and jewelry. This is so small town. I love this. R&R. Ribbons and Roses Unlimited. Here's the book parlor. Total small town little type of store. Let's check this out over here. Something's coming up over here. I love the building. This old building style here. Burns Paiute-nsn.gov. Yeah, look at these old photographs here. Skaggs Safeway stores. Wow, vintage photographs. Boy, how people used to live. From right to left, Marie Adams, Annie Adams, Susie Adams, and an unknown government official. Paiute Indians, Burns, Oregon. Wow. And here we are at Broadway Deli. Oh, and look at this. A gas station from the 60s or 70s. I'm guessing this still works. They're all digital now. Burns Town Apartments. Just an old wagon. The other thing that I notice is that interspersed with some of the old things, especially in this particular case, there are what are obviously new businesses, newly renovated, updated. Look at this barbershop right here with this awesome clock. Here's a sewing, like, it looks like a sewing business of some sort. Very cool. Leather, like a leather shop. And then this is a grand old piece of some of the original. So look at this, right at the top. 1899. Broadway and Adams Street. So I was parked kind of right in the middle of town right here, and you know, it's worked out pretty well. So tomorrow I take off and I head over to Bend, Oregon. Thanks for watching my next sort of vlog entry, travel vlog entry.